Hello everyone, welcome to this video. We will now explore the SEN Code of Practice, disability legislation and the role of the SENCo. We'll be looking at some of the legal aspects that surround working and supporting students with special educational needs and what this means for us in schools. The SEN Code of Practice is a set of processes, procedures and best practice for people working with special educational needs and ensures that those children and young people who have special educational needs have their needs met in an appropriate way in whatever educational establishment they're in, whether that's mainstream or specialist or even independent. The first SEN Code of Practice was published in 1994, but in 2015 it was restructured. This restructuring was brought about because government felt that it could better support children and young adults with SEN. Before this restructuring, there was a lack of support for children once they got past school. So past the age of about 16, 17 or 18, there was a real lack of support for people going into the workplace. And lots of children and young adults would be left with very little support or adult-focused support, which they weren't quite ready for. The restructures led to a few changes, and it meant that the support lasted from birth all the way up to 25 years. That allows them to go into employment and ensure that they're fully able to function as an adult before they're handed over to adult services. Along with these changes came the introduction of the Education, Health and Care Plan. This replaced the Statement of Special Educational Needs that many students had before that. The reason for introducing this was so that all of the different areas working with children could come together and focus on the needs of that child. It also looks at more personal and parental input for the child or the young adult, so they can have a better say in the support they need in the classroom, at home and in the workplace. In addition to this, there are some revised learning outcomes that came from the National Award for SENCo. This is an award that SENCos need to complete in order to be legally able to carry out their roles in schools. We'll look at the role of the SENCo in just a second. So, some other disability legislation that's important to understand is the Equality Act. This was reviewed in 2010 and updated at that point to include basically everything that should come under equality. It ensures that all individuals have equal access to education, support, employment and any other opportunities or services regardless of anything that they have that makes them different from anybody else. That could be their age, race, religion, disability or any other differing factor. So the Equality Act replaced the Disability Discrimination Act of 1995 and encompasses all of those discrimination acts that came before it into one single piece of legislation. So as I said, we were going to move on to looking at the role of the SENCo. So let's do just that. So this person in a school has responsibility for the progress and provision for students with special educational needs. And that's for all students with special educational needs, whether they have the Education, Health and Care Plan or not. A SENCo may assess children if they have a referral from a class teacher or somebody else in the school where they feel that a child may need some extra support. They can also refer them on to other professionals to do assessments if they feel that's more appropriate. The SENCo provides advice and guidance for parents so that they can support needs at home and so that the school and home have a great communication, can really support a child and maintain consistency going forward because that's really important for a child with special educational needs. The SENCo also supports teachers and support staff with any training, advice or ideas for supporting children in the classroom. You may have received training from a SENCo in your school or from another school. That advice and training is really important because they often know the children quite well. The SENCo also completes the assessment paperwork and consultations for the Education, Health and Care Plans. There is a lot of paperwork that goes along with that and they are legal documents, so they have to be processed and created in a certain way. The SENCo will oversee that. They regularly review the needs and provisions for the students on the SEN register. So every school will have a register of every student within that school who is deemed as having special educational needs, whether they have an EHCP, that's an Education, Health and Care Plan, or not. And finally, the SENCo liaises with all of the professionals that may come in to provide support for students. That could be your educational psychologist, any therapists, or any counsellors, or anybody else that might come in to provide support for the students. So they're really the person that coordinates the way we support children in and outside of school.